Hi, I'm James McGuire, and on today's eSpeaks, we're talking about data management and how companies can use data management to boost their machine learning and artificial intelligence. To discuss that, I'm joined by a very special guest. With me is Tarek Madkour, Director of Product Management at Databricks. Tarek, happy Friday to you, and very good to have you with us today.
Happy Friday to you as well, James. Thank you for hosting me, and it's great to be here.
So I don't usually bring LinkedIn profiles into these interviews, but I read something on your LinkedIn profile that I found really intriguing. You said that you're experienced in making, quote, artificial intelligence and machine learning readily usable by mere mortals. Kind of got me intrigued. So how do you do this? How can we mere mortals and average companies do this?
Yeah, it's something I really feel deep inside. It's just data is very important, and a lot of people recognize that. But data science is very, very hard,
Mhm.
and our job is to just make data science more approachable to more and more people, and to make them be able to do the magic that they want to do with data. So when we look at some of the most successful companies that have a lot of data, and they're sitting on mountains of data, and they are able to turn that data into gold. Think about the likes of, Google and Facebook. They've been able to really transform the world and create tremendous business value by using data and transforming that data into customer value and business value. And a lot of companies to do the same thing, but it's very, very, very hard. And our goal at Databricks is to make that possible for all those other companies in the world to be able to do the same kind of magic with data that the top companies in the world have been able to do for years. But to do that, we really need to make it possible for them to be able to do this without the tremendous investment and energy and type of people that need to be hired to be able to make that possible. So we provide a platform that makes it easier, simpler to use, but also lower in cost, as well as that platform being approachable by a normal data scientist and data engineer out there in the world. And my part of this is to focus on the developer side of it and the data scientist, the data engineer, the data practitioner that is going to be using and working with that data. And how can we make their life easier and make those tools easier and easier to use for them to be able to do their job?
Mhm. All right, so something part of what you mentioned is the idea of making data more accessible. Is part of it the idea that the platform itself would have an easier user interface? Are you saying that Databricks has a particularly easy user interface?
Yes, definitely user interface is part of it. And another big part of it is the platform itself. So if you think about, a typical company that has to do with data and what they need to do, they need to employ different tools to deal with the different data needs. They have data storage that they need to do, and they need some sort of system that's going to have like a data lake to store those things. Then they're going to need to transform that data and massage that data to make sure that it's all correct and accessible by the other tools. And they have some sort of what we call ETL pipelines that they have to deal with, or orchestration that they have to deal with, and they get a different tool for that. And then they need to do some data science and machine learning on that. And there's a third tool that they need to use for this. Then they need some sort of data warehouse so that they can do analytics on it. And that's yet another tool. Then they need some sort of streaming mechanism to deal with data that is incoming. And that's yet another tool. And having to deal with all these different tools is hard. It is complex and it is expensive. And simplicity comes also in the form of having a single data platform that can do all of these things. So instead of having to procure multiple tools, deal with multiple tools, learn multiple tools, and get people that have to work with multiple tools, you just have a single tool that you can use that covers all your data needs. And to me, that is really the power of where Databricks comes in. And that is why we have this data lakehouse. And for us, the Databricks lakehouse is the one that brings all of these things together and makes it simpler for you to do data and more cost effective for you to do data.
All right, interesting. So you've mentioned also about developers and the importance of developers. You said that it's important to invest in the developer ecosystem and meet developers where they are. Why is this important, and how does it relate to data analytics?
Oh, this is incredibly important to us. Our customers are data practitioners. They are data engineers, they are data scientists, they are data analysts, they are data developers. And for us, for the longest time, we have been investing in our own tools. Namely, one of our most known tools is what's called the Databricks Notebook. And we've been investing in making sure that that is an awesome tool that people can use for quick data analysis, for iteration, for seeing results. And that worked very, very well for us. But then as we grow, we see a lot more types of data practitioners coming in, wanting to deal, especially as you increase that pie of how much of data that you're playing in. Then some of those people are coming in with their own tools that they are comfortable with, that they want to use. So it is very important for us to appeal to all the different kinds of data practitioners that want to come into our ecosystem. And providing with only a single tool and a single way of doing something isn't good enough. You need to be able to work with tools that we have, plus other tools in the ecosystem, plus tools that they're familiar with, plus tools that they already use, and provide a rich developer ecosystem across the breadth of all of those tools. So the developers can come in with the skill sets that they have and with the tools that they're comfortable with, and can just be as productive on day one on Databricks.
Are you suggesting that the developers actually changing the natures of the tools, or they're using the tools to create their own applications only?
We try to augment those tools. So let's take, for example, our most recent release. We looked at a lot of our customers, and we're realizing many of them use integrated development environments by large third-party providers to work with data. So one of the ones we hear a lot about, for example, is Visual Studio Code. Mm-hmm. And we also hear about another one called PyChart. And one of the things we definitely enable is, okay, how can we make you as a developer who is very comfortable using Visual Studio Code be able to use Databricks directly from that tool that you're familiar with? So what we do is we go and create integrations into these tools, native integrations that you can get from the marketplace for that tool. And it is created by Databricks, supported by Databricks. And when you get that integration, it lights up that tool. So it's able to do more and more of Databricks functionality. You can write the code and now run it directly on Databricks. You should be able to see results coming back from Databricks without leaving your tool.
All right, makes perfect sense. So you certainly talked about this. I want to make sure that we clarify, what is really the Databricks value proposition. It sounds like most of all, it's integrating a number of tools. It's a very rich tool set. It is fully integrated. It is also cloud agnostic. Correct me if I'm wrong. So in a nutshell, what is the Databricks advantage over some of the other platforms that are doing what you do these days?
Absolutely. I think our strength is the Lakehouse. That breadth of workloads that we're able to handle directly from within Databricks. Databricks is an open platform, so you're not getting vendor lock-in with us. But also, Databricks is multi-cloud. So we work with any customer, whether their data is in Microsoft Azure, or is in Amazon Web Services, or in Google Cloud, or wherever it's going to be. We can work with any cloud. And we provide you with all these different workloads that I talked about. So we have our own orchestration engine. We have our own data warehousing product. We deal with the data lakes. We have our own ML engines. We do data science and machine learning. All of these things are things that come directly with the Lakehouse. And we see that that's exactly what CIOs have been asking us for. Every CIO wants to do more with data. They want to be a data forward company. And we help them do that. We help them become a data forward company by getting and using our tools and achieve the results that they want with them. So for example, if you see some of our customers, they do some amazing things with data. We have Rivian, for example. They use Databricks Lakehouse to understand how a car is performing and how this impacts a driver that is using it. So they are using machine learning to predict, for example, when a car needs maintenance, or increase the accuracy of its self-driving system. Those are all things that they use Databricks for. AT&T is also using Databricks to do they have over 100 machine learning models in production. They use them in real time with data to be able to do automatic alerts, detect fraud, identify fraudulent activity and things like that. Protect you as a customer from robocalls. Those are all awesome ways that people are using our platform, and we think we're meeting the needs of customers that way, and that gives us a tremendous advantage. It makes it simpler for them to use one platform, but also significantly lowers their total cost of ownership.
Interesting use of one word that I want to clarify, if only for my own education and the education of other readers and users, is the idea of data lakehouse. We know a data warehouse is typically thought of as an aggregation of data tools. The data lake is really a repository of data, but the data lake house, I want to make sure that's not used a few different ways. Like what really, let's be, what is a data lake house in your view?
Oh, absolutely. So a data lakehouse is a way to combine these beautiful worlds, right? Not only it is the, the ability to access data wherever it is stored with a data lake. Not only is it the ability to have a copy of your data that you can do BI on, but it's the ability to do those things together and a lot more, like having that single copy of the data. So typically you have your data stored in your data lake. You're able to get that single copy of the data in the lakehouse and do all kinds of things with that data. You can do the orchestration on that data. You can have your jobs running to transform the data. You can do data science and machine learning right there on that data. You can stream data directly into the lakehouse. You can do BI on the lakehouse. Works as a data warehouse as well. So it's a much richer thing than just a data lake and a data warehouse.
Well, all right, then what is the difference between a data warehouse and a data lakehouse?
Yeah, so for us, if you look at traditional data warehouses, for example, they're awesome at doing BI. They're a tool that, as a data practitioner, you can use and do some amazing BI with. One of the things that, people also want to do is not just the BI, which tells you like, how am I doing, kind of gives you information about what we have, but also do predictions. They want to be able to do AI. They want to be able to do machine learning. And for those, there are very special tools that do these things. And typically, people would have a separate tool with a separate copy of the data outside the data warehouse to be able to do AI and machine learning. With a data lakehouse, you're able to do with that single copy of the data, both the typical warehouse capabilities of BI, but also you can now do data science. You can do machine learning at the highest levels directly on that data.
So interesting question, I think, is the future and where we're headed for the future. Other companies really want to know where we're going. What do you see as the future of the data lakehouse and the data lake? What are some milestones we can expect?
Well, absolutely. I think there's a bright future to the lakehouse. And from my perspective, obviously, I look a lot at the developer ecosystem and what we enable there. So from our perspective, we should expect to see for our developers a massive investment in both sides of our developer ecosystem. First, our own proprietary, support in terms of our Databricks workspace and investments in Databricks notebooks, bringing a data-centric environment where you can do quick iterations on your data and do all kinds of analysis on it directly from inside Databricks. So that's been, undergoing tremendous, improvements this year, and you should expect to see that in the future, our customers, as well as, an investment in that other side of enabling this full world of third-party ecosystems through integrated development environments. So now we have support for Visual Studio Code. Our customers should expect to see more improvements for Visual Studio Code, for example, bringing in live debugging, but also rolling out support for other IDEs that they've been telling us about, as well as additional tools and CLIs and SDKs and APIs for all the types of developer scenarios. Another thing that we're going to be looking at is going to production with data. We're starting now to see customers coming in with larger amounts of data. They are having larger teams working on the data. And now that basically lends itself to data not as an individual sport of an individual data practitioner working with it, but data as a team sport. There's a lot of people working with data. So now how do we enable those scenarios? How do we make sure that as they are working with the data assets together, that they can do that effectively, they can collaborate easily, we can help them ensure that they are making any changes and ensuring quality as they're making those changes, not regressing things. How can we take this data changes that they're making and take those to production so that they can have an elaborate production environment that they know is correct all the time and serves the needs of the real-time needs. Doing that data as a team sport is another area of innovation we're going to have. As I talked about, the Lakehouse has many workloads that it enables. Should expect to see more and more of those different workloads of the Lakehouse come and get enabled in our developer ecosystem. More support for data warehousing, more support for orchestration, better support for data engineering, more support for data science and machine learning, bringing all of those in to our developers directly through the tools that we enable. And obviously, our growth is being driven by the adoption among CIOs and large enterprises, and they are under pressure to reduce spending. So we help them a lot by creating architectures in the lakehouse that help them to effectively do that. So you should see with the lakehouse in the future, it becomes less expensive and less cumbersome to deal with as data platforms, and we continue to make that access to data cheaper and more intuitive and better. You should see new releases coming from us soon. So for example, next week we're going to be launching something called serverless real-time inference. And that really helps simplify production machine learning. And we're going to be having an announcement on that next week. And that's going to be something awesome as well. And there's a lot more than we're planning. And we have a very, very rich roadmap, basically like a jam-packed roadmap. And we'll be launching that and demoing its new capabilities at our Data and AI Summit in June. So definitely invite you to follow that. And you're going to hear a lot more about what we're doing.
That is fascinating. The event in June should be really interesting. Where's that going to be held?
I believe it's in San Francisco.
Ah, all right. Hopefully I will attend that. Tarek, I think you said it. A lot of good stuff. Fascinating. It's going to be interesting to watch the sector. Thanks so much for sharing your insight today.
Well, thank you so much for hosting me, James. Really, really appreciate it. It was fun talking to you.